Okay. All right, we are now connected. So Mark, when you're ready, the meeting is now live.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. How's everybody doing?
Good.
Good. Glad to hear that. We have one application on the agenda this evening, which is 123 Arlington, which I believe Andrew is going to recuse himself from. And Antonio, you're gonna fill that spot. Is that good with you?
That sounds great. Thanks.
All right, great. Why don't we do minutes? Cindy, we have enough people for minutes, right?
Yes, it will be you and Antonio and Andrew.
Okay. Are there any comments from the last meeting's minutes? Questions, comments, concerns?
Nope.
All right, seeing none and hearing none, I make a motion that we approve last month's minutes. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye, opposed? None? Okay, so Cindy, we're up to date on that. Do we have any other
Yes.
minutes we have to approve, Cindy, or are we all up to date?
You're all up to date now. We didn't meet in December and January.
Okay,
I'll see you guys next time.
all
Good
right,
night.
good night. Rebecca, I'm gonna open the floor up to you if you want to do a trustees report.
Sure, thank you, Mark. Good evening, everyone. I have a couple things to report on. One is following up on a report I gave previously about the short-term rental code and potential changes. I had reported that we were considering making the zoning board the review board of applications for short-term rentals. That is not the direction that the village is going in. So hurrah, you don't have more work. Otherwise, the code is being drafted for that currently, and we are aiming to schedule a public hearing for the new short-term rental code, which is an update of the bed and breakfast code in the first Board of Trustees meeting in April. So you can keep your eyes out for that, and of course, anyone here on this board or watching who has public comment on that can attend that public meeting, public hearing once it's announced. Other big happenings in the village, anyone who viewed the Board of Trustees meeting last night, there is much discussion about the bluff, in the country club area on East Beach. It was a very informative meeting. The mayor had a very informative and shocking for some presentation with photos of the area, a proposition of one direction to go, which is stabilizing the bluff, which would be a project in somewhere between $6 and $10 million. And other trustees suggested perhaps looking into alternatives. If we did not stabilize the bluff, what alternatives existed. So anyone who's curious to know more, please do go to the YouTube account of the Village of Port Jefferson and watch that public meeting of the Board of Trustees that happened yesterday to catch up. You could also look for the Port report coming out later this week. That will have some information as well. And that's it. Does anyone have any questions for your trustee liaison?
How did we do at the Ice Festival yesterday? This weekend?
The Ice Festival was phenomenal. I personally crawled for the mac and cheese. And by crawl, I mean, we got to the point where by the 15th mac and cheese, you were crawling because you couldn't walk anymore. It was great. Parking lots were full, which means the village was packed. The ice sculptures were amazing. Some were interactive. It was sort of like a photo booth, and some of them are still down there. So if you didn't get there this weekend, go stroll around. The weather's getting warmer, thank goodness, this week for us humans, but for the ice sculptures, it means they will not last long. So I think the bid and everyone who made the ice festival happen, it was fun for all.
Very good. All right, thank you.
Very good. You're welcome.
Cindy, I saw you said there were 2 public comments. I only have one of them. So I'm going to ask you to read the 2 public comments when that time comes, if that's
Oh.
okay.
Sure. I sent both of them. I just sent today.
Okay.
One was from Nielsen on 112 Jane Avenue. And the other one was from Ken and Lauren Auerbach. They didn't give an address.
Okay.
But it's another neighbor. So do you
All
want
right.
me to forward it to you, or do you want me to just read them into the record?
Just give me 1 second. Let me see, maybe. Yeah, forward it to me again, please, Cindy, so I have it.
Which one do you have?
Let me look.
Oh,
You-
it's okay. I could just send you both.
Send me both. That would be the best. And did everyone see the staff report? Anybody have any questions or comments about this application? If you don't already know, this application is for one of the trustees, Trustee Snaden. Not that that makes a difference, but just for point of fact. And Andrew is involved in the application. I believe he's the architect of record, so he'll be recusing himself tonight. Any questions or comments? Lisa, do you have any informative information that the board may want to, or any other than what was in, I mean, I saw your report. Anything else that?
Yeah, I will repeat everything during the public hearing portion for the record, but I think it's a pretty straightforward application. As the report said, the property is almost 3 times the size of the minimum requirement in the RB2. I will correct, there was one error. The 3rd time I mentioned the zoning district, I think I accidentally had a typo and said RB3. They are in the RB2 single family residence district. Proportionally, I think it's quite different than if it were a 15,000 square foot, even if it was through lot. This application reminded me a little bit of the one the board looked at maybe 2 years ago for 101 Oakwood. If you remember that one, that was a through lot over on Oakwood. Similar case, they had a large fence that they also set back a bit, and a pool in the front yard because they are a through lot. And with through lots, you don't have any actual legal place you can put a pool, because the side yard exception is for corner properties.
Lisa, is that the 101 Oakwood's the one where the contractor put the pool in the wrong location and they had to come in for a variance? Am I correct?
Yes, somehow the contractor then followed the Brookhaven setbacks when they installed the pool instead of the Port Jefferson setbacks.
Okay. And this is, correct me if I'm wrong, we did something with the fence a few years ago because it's a through lot, right? Correct me?
Yeah, so you'll see that the fence is not on this application because they already did get the fence variance. They came to the zoning board. The date is in the report. It might have been, I don't remember.
2018 sometime, yeah.
Yeah, so they had at that time had a fence installed in what is the architectural rear yard of the property. It's set back about 10 feet from the property line, and there's a lot of mature vegetation, which Mr. Snaden actually sent some photos, which I'll be able to share my screen and show, that shows that it doesn't stand out as much as one would think. If you had just a yard with a large fence, it would be different, but because of the mature trees, it sort of fades.
And this application is also for a pool house, am I correct?
Yes, that is correct. So the pool house has a similar restriction where it can be in the rear or the side yard, but it cannot be in a front yard. And again, this property is pretty much all front yard.
And I'm looking at the survey or the map that was put together, and it looks like they're looking for a storage shed. Is the storage shed within code? Because it looks like storage shed, proposed covered breezeway, and then proposed finished pool house.
Yeah, so it's all connected, and it meets the most recent code for more active use accessory structures. And so there's a portion of it which has like a changing room and a bathroom and an outdoor shower, and then kind of a covered breezeway, they're calling it, where they would have a seating area and then a portion that's non-conditioned that would hold the pool equipment and be more of a storage shed. But it is all connected as one sort of open structure with these two more closed elements on either side.
And so there's a variance for that because that is forward of the front property line. Am I right in saying that?
That's correct.
Okay. All right. Does anybody have any questions or comments for Lisa? Or in general?
Sure. I just wanted to make sure if I have all the materials. Did you say there was a map provided?
I'm looking at the survey and I'm looking at this survey. I don't know if you have it.
No. Was that in the staff report?
It was in
That
a
would've
package I received.
That's in the actual application. So
Okay.
if you have that before
have
you, okay, because I,
Oh, okay, I can resend it now if
I
anyone
have it
needs
actually. Here it is. Got it. Got the app.
Okay.
Perfect.
Okay.
Thanks.
And Cindy, were you sending me those two?
You should have gotten them. I sent them right after we spoke about it. Should be
All right.
in your
Let me see
inbox.
that. I don't see them as of yet.
I sent it to both emails. You have the two different accounts.
Right, it hasn't shown up on my one yet.
Let's see. Yeah, it says it went through.
Okay. Doesn't mean it's not there. My email has not been user friendly lately, so
Oh,
worst case scenario, Cindy, you can just read them into the record.
yeah. I sent to, you want me to, I did the brookhaven.org.
Right, that one, don't send it to the Mark
And
Braz one.
Oh, okay. I did also the newyork.gov. So you want me to do it to,
Mark Braz at AOL.
okay.
That would be the perfect one. All right. That's being the case. We got 10 minutes before the,
Okay, you should have, I just sent it over.
okay, probably come through in a second. So that being said, looks like we'll have to wait about 10 minutes before we can start. So everyone just wants to take a break or look through that packet. At 6:30, we'll call the public meeting to order. Got him, Cindy.
Okay, good.
Is the last deed of record in the application or no? You don't include it? It's not required?
What was the question?
Do you include the deed sometimes I see we have them in some of the applications.
As a
We were-
requirement,
We
Yeah.
So
require.
the deed is
proof.
just there for proof of ownership, but it's not something that we need to go in depth on. We also accept tax bills and other things. It's just showing that person requesting the relief actually owns the place. So
Got it.
that way they're not asking relief on neighbors' properties or other weirdo things.
Standing, yeah, sure.
Minor thing. Yeah, no big deal.
No, very minor. Are there two lots with this or? Well, let's see. Lot
I
2.4.
think so. I thought it was just a large one, but Lisa has her head more into the spell. She can answer that one. You're muted.
Thank you, sorry. There is, I believe, a little sliver which happens sometimes with lots, that is technically a second tax lot, but it's been legally merged, basically.
Yeah, it's lot 10 and lot 4, I think, right?
Yeah. Merged in loft, not actually on the map.
And in terms of the pool house, there's no variances needed for the pool house, right? Like in terms like the bathroom or the toilet or the plumbing or anything like that?
No, that all fits into our accessory structure code. The code now has been amended to allow certain types of a little bit of intensification of accessory structures, like active use, so that they can include bathroom facilities, but they can't have a shower indoors. The intent is to prevent and make sure that we're not putting accessory apartments on lots, but yet allowing, especially with COVID increasingly, in addition to the demand for things like pool houses, a lot of people would like to have a little office space in the backyard, an art shed, and the code as it existed didn't quite allow that type of use. So recently the Board of Trustees has amended that. So in this case, this falls into that type of use, but it does, it still is the issue of the front yard, which frankly, in this property, it's always going to be that issue.
Yeah. Okay.
Lisa, who's representing on this application?
Mr.
The owner, Mr. Snaden, will be representing.
Perfect, thank you. Lisa, does the house fronts on Arlington, right? And it's at the rear yard would be Jane. Am I correct in saying that?
Yes, so the architectural front of the house is on Arlington Avenue, and they do have, it's a very unique lot. We'll look at the aerials in a minute, but their driveway actually continues through to Jane as
Right.
well.
But the
But
front
for
door
all,
is
if you lived in that house, the side on Jane would be your rear yard you
right.
know, that's how you would consider it.
The front door is facing Arlington. For the sake
That's
of
correct.
argument. Thank you. All right. Everyone ready? Is the stenographer ready? Jen, you ready?
I'm ready.
Okay. Good evening, everyone. This is the February 8th, 2022 Zoning Board of Appeals meeting for the Village of Port Jefferson. And it's now 6:30, so we'll begin the public portion of the meeting. Tonight, we have one application on the agenda. It is 123 Arlington, is application 566-21, section 11, block 2, lot 2.4. The zoning is RB2 residential district. The property owner is William and Kathy Ann Snaden. The applicant is Kathy Ann Snaden. The contact is Kathy Ann Snaden. The description is as follows. Applicant requests permission to construct an in-ground pool forward of the front foundation line of the dwelling along Jane Avenue. Section 250-11C, subsection 3 of the code requires that pools must be located within either the rear or side yard of the property. The applicant also requests permission to construct a pool house and a shed connected by a covered breezeway forward of the front foundation line of the dwelling along Jane Avenue. Section 250-28 prohibits accessory buildings to project nearer to the street on which the principal building fronts. That being said, do we have an applicant this
Yes,
evening?
I will promote the applicant to panelist.
Oh, there we go. Excellent. Good evening.
Hello, can you hear us?
Yes. Can you hear us?
Perfect.
Yes.
All right. Very good. Before we begin, I'm going to ask that you both are sworn in. Jen, can you handle that, please?
Sure. Hi, guys. Do you swear the testimony and or statements you're about to give will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth to help you God?
I do.
I do.
Thank you. And I have your address.
Okay, perfect. And just for the record, could you just state your names for the record, please?
So William Staten, 123 Arlington Avenue.
And Kathy Ann Snaden, 123 Arlington Avenue.
Okay. I'm going to open the floor up to you and let you present your application, and then we'll go from there. Is that okay?
Great. Mark, go ahead.
I'm sorry, before you begin, did you get a copy of the draft report from Lisa Rickmers?
I did, yes.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. Please go ahead.
Great, thank you. I want to just obviously introduce ourselves. It's Kathy Ann and William Snaden. We do live at 123 Arlington Avenue. Before we get into things too much, I do want to say thank you guys for scheduling this meeting, quickly. I know we didn't have meetings before, but I know everybody's time is valuable. So thank you for getting this squeezed in. With that in mind, I know that, we all have things that we want to do. So I'm going to try to keep this brief and to the point while still covering the facts. we were listening in on the beginning of the meeting with everybody, and Mark was accurate in that we are in fact coming before the zoning board of appeal for requesting 2 variances. 1 to build an in-ground pool, and 2 to build an accessory structure that complies with the current Village of Port Jeff code. Both of which I guess technically are proposed to be in front of the primary structure on our property, which is, I guess, technically what's called the front yard. I learned a new word today from Lisa, which is the architectural front and the architectural rear. I just had been calling our backyard all this time.
And if you were listening and you heard me ask her which way the front door faces, so.
Right. So yes, you were correct, Mark. Arlington is what we consider the front of the house. It's obviously our street address. It's where the mail is delivered and whatnot. And, when the kids are playing, they're playing in the quote backyard, which fronts Jane Avenue. So that in mind, yes, you guys were also correct that we did come before the Zoning Board of Appeals a couple of years ago asking for a variance for the fence that now we currently do have in what we call our backyard. And part of that was, as we indicated at the time, a little bit of a learning experience for us in that, we realized now owning a property that has 2 fronts, that both sides facing a street would be considered the front. So we did learn a little bit about that. And at the time we discussed one of the reasons that we were looking for a fence of the kind that was approved, which, by the way, thank you for that. It really looks great. And, everybody that's seen it says that it does so and doesn't detract from the neighborhood. And in fact, adds some value to the house. The kids like it and the dogs like it. So that's good. So part of that process, I think we mentioned at the time, was that we wanted, as part of a big plan, to put a pool in, which was one of the reasons that we wanted to get a fence of pool code height approved. So I did want to mention that. And again, we're here because our backyard is really considered a front yard. So Kathy Ann and I, as you guys were talking about with the Oakwood Avenue, also we're actually listening on that meeting, where that seems to be a similar property where they do have a street frontage on 2 sides of their lot. The contractor issue notwithstanding, I think the similarity there was the fact that we have a similar property with street frontage on 2 sides of the lot, where the pool is effectively in someone's front yard. So that is, again, what we're asking for here is the approval for an accessory structure and a pool in what we consider to be our front yard. And just a couple of quick points, and I'll move on. I think one of the things that makes our property hopefully a little bit unique in compared to some other things, as Lisa was saying, this is not a 15,000 square foot lot. We do have 2 parcels or 2 lots which have been joined. The smallest one is, literally 6 feet by 6 feet. It's a little triangle. The remaining one is just 0.99 shy of an acre. So we have a substantial lot, and we have the space to, fit the pool. We wanted to try to fit into the character of the neighborhood here and make sure that, we're doing so and improving things. So many of our neighbors have pools. In fact, our neighbor immediately to the south, who I believe has also written a letter for the public record, has a pool essentially in the same spot in her lot, and our pool and or accessory structures would be basically located adjacent to hers, obviously within the correct setbacks required for those things. Our neighbor to the north, I believe, is Ken and Lauren Auerbach. I don't have their address off the top of my head, but I believe they're one of the letters that you received. They are our immediate neighbor to the north on our property line, and I believe that they've sent in a letter expressing, their approval of us being able to improve our property in this way. So one of the things on size is, I think that because of the size of the lot that we have, with the location that we're planning on putting the accessory structures in the pool, we're going to be about 70 feet set back from Jane, which is a significant distance, I think, and probably more distance than if we actually had our primary physical structure on Jane. Obviously we don't, But to be, 70 feet back from the road, I think is definitely something that will help, this thing, not be some big thing out literally in someone's front lawn. One of the other things I think that's important to note, and I had Kathy Ann helped us out and got some pictures in quickly that we've sent along, is that from the Jane side of the world, because we have a mature growth of evergreen trees, arborvitaes and whatever they are, cryptomerias and cedars, even in the wintertime, when you're driving on Jane, you don't see into our backyard and you can barely see that there's a fence there. So I think that in combination with the fact that the setback on this pool is going to be, and the accessory structure is going to be about 70 feet from Jane, hopefully is something that you guys will take into consideration. So having said that, obviously, you guys hear this stuff all the time, right? We have the 5 tests, for an area or a use variance. Obviously, we're looking for an area variance here. To speak on the effect to the neighborhood character, I provided an aerial photograph, I think, more in the summertime, and it shows you that there are 4 or 5, visibly evident pools in our neighborhood. It's a nice neighborhood. We love it here. And I think, adding a pool, just like all of our neighbors has, is definitely going to be in character with the neighborhood. Our neighbor directly to the south actually also has a pool house or accessory structure directly adjacent to her pool. And there's another fellow on Arlington who has an accessory structure adjacent to his pool as well. So actually, there's 2 on Arlington that have accessory structures next to their pool. So I think, the character test and the neighborhood test, we are going to fit right in. Is there an alternative solution? Technically, we could probably squeeze a pool in on our side yard to the south. Unfortunately, our septic system occupies that space, so that is not a viable alternative for us to see if there was an alternative acceptable solution. On point number 3, for what is the how big is this request? How substantial is it? Are we asking you to change a variance by a foot or an inch or 2 inches? Unfortunately, I can't give you a percentage on that, since we're basically asking, just like with the fence, for our backyard to be called our backyard so we can put a pool in it. But again, what I can say is that because this will be so far from the road, I don't think that this, there's going to be any measurable impact to any of the neighbors, visibly or otherwise, for the, house sustainability. Will this have any negative or adverse impacts on the environment? We do not believe so. And then obviously the final test is, did this, adversity, was it self-created? Did we create this mess upon ourselves? Did our contractor put it in the wrong place? Did we build our house so large that there's no other room for a pool or anything like that? And, to that question, I would say that, no, I don't believe that we created, this adversity on our own. So I think those are, from our perspective, I think the main points. Did I leave anything out? Sorry for not taking your breath there, but I wanted to get all that through and get it out to you guys.
Not a problem. Do you have any other comments or anything else to add to it, Mr. Stan?
I don't think so. I mean, I think I just want to just quickly kind of echo on what Lisa's saying, is that, as far as the accessory structure use, we did spend some time in working with the building department to make sure, and obviously the way we got here was a denial from the building department. And the reason that the building department has denied us is not because of the size or scope of our intended project or the makeup of it, or whether it's an active use or a passive storage use or size. They're good with all that stuff. The reason it was denied is the technicality of us having 2 front yards. So that's what we're looking for relief here today, is, to allow us to, install the pool and the accessory structures in what we call our backyard. And we're hoping that you guys can help us out with that.
Okay, excellent. I'm just going to do a couple of quick housekeeping issues. So I forgot doing prior to that. Antonio has been promoted to the board tonight because from an alternate. because Andrew had to recuse himself because of a professional conflict, and Tracy is out tonight. So Antonio will be on the board. The second thing is just to recognize it. Your wife is a trustee in the Village of Port Jefferson. That has no bearing on this application since the zoning board is an independent board, but I just want to recognize it because I did bring it up at work session. And Lisa, could you, Mr. Stanton mentioned some pictures. Could you show them for the board so we can we have those?
Right. Just give me a minute. I'm having a little trouble with my home computer and the screen share, but I'm going to attempt this right now.
While Lisa's trying to get those going, I'm going to open some questions up to the board. Mr. Snaden, you had mentioned that you have some neighbors that have a similar setup. Now, just for the record, you have a through lot. That means it fronts on both Jane and Arlington, which is the reason why you're in front of us tonight. You said you had some other neighbors that had a similar situation as you. Where are they relative to your property? Are they immediately adjacent to you, or are they across the street?
Similar in the fact that they have an existing pool at about the same setback from Jane that we would have. And similar in the fact that they have a pool with an accessory structure right next to it. So as far as through lots, I think they're, 29 Laurel Drive, I think you guys approved in May, is a through lot. And then the Oakwood property from July of 2020 is also a through lot for comparables.
Yes, we do have those. I am going to have Lisa speak on that once she figures out the shared drive. She looks puzzled right now, so I'm going to let her try to figure this out.
I'm actually going to ask, Lou, if you don't mind sharing your screen. All screen shares are enabled, and for some reason mine will not access my desktop right now. So it could be because I'm working from a remote account.
Do I have the pictures in my inbox?
You should have them for today, but I'm happy to resend them if you need them.
Let me just see. I didn't see it before, but
okay, I will forward them to you then.
And Mr. Chairman, I just want to mention, I am here. I had to unplug Allison's headphone, and that's not, for some reason, it's not allowing me to access my camera, but I am here.
Okay, you can hear you.
Yes, and I can hear everything fine. I can see you guys, but you just can't see me.
Okay, thank you, Jennifer.
Okay.
Yeah, Lisa, if you could resend those. I have the staff. Yeah. I don't have the images.
Okay, no problem. They're coming to you in 1 second.
The joys of working from Zoom, and but we'll get through it. Does anyone have any questions for the applicant? I am going to have Lisa speak on this application because the lot is unique, but until we work out the shared screen, I'm going to just open it up to the board if they have any questions or comments for the applicant.
Have you considered lighting decisions on the accessory structure? Has that been a part of your design or discussion with the building department? Any lighting or projection of lighting? Will there be spotlights on the structure? Or will there be goosenecks or?
Gosh, no, the only very minimal lighting, if anything, on the outside of the structure, it would be like what you would call like a coach light, I guess, on the side, and that would be on the north side of the structure, which faces our house, and there's quite a distance before you even get to the next neighbor. And also to note, the design of our pool is very minimal. They call it a Hampton style, where there's very, very minimal paving or cement for minimal impact that you won't be able to see from the road, and the neighbors wouldn't be able to see it either, because the pool house structure would be between the pool and the immediate adjacent neighbor to the south, and again, the distance to the neighbor to the north, it's too far.
I don't see any issues with light pollution. I think, to echo on Kathy Ann's point, our current structures would form a U-shaped garage house accessory pool structure that all face each other. And to Kathy Ann's point, I think we're thinking about some, architecturally attractive small coach lights just for some accent lighting kind of thing.
Additionally, to note, directly behind where the pool house would be, before you get to the property line on our property, are a line of evergreen trees as well. that separate the two properties. So the neighbor being in their yard, if they look directly at the pool house, they're going to see evergreens before they even see the back of the pool house
And the outdoor shower on the back.
and the outdoor shower.
Do you have any other comments or questions from the board? Okay, I'm just gonna.
Mark, I'm sorry. I'll pull this up in a second, but just one comment. How are you guys? So I recall on the previous application, Bill, that you brought up before us on the fence,
Yeah.
that in that discussion, you know, I was supportive of that application because functionally, you know, the fact that you also have your garage in the rear or you know, on the area of the property fronting Jane, you know, to me was part of the reason why it was kind of set apart as you know, operating as your backyard. And so just a comment, not a question for the rest of the board who might be considering, is that was part of my justification is why I supported the fence and why, you know, this to me still makes a lot of sense. So let me pull up these pictures if I can. Let's see here.
And Lisa, while Lou's doing that, could you just give us some information about this lot, the uniqueness of it for anyone that might be listening that doesn't have the application in front of them? Just tell us a little more about the lot as we did in work session.
Yeah, it's a through lot, which means it has neighboring houses on either side, but fronts on two streets. It's a large lot for the neighborhood, almost a full acre, in an area where the minimum lot size is only 15,000 square feet. The house itself is facing Arlington Avenue, and that is what anyone who's at the house would perceive as the front yard of the house. It has a very large yard that stretches from the house back to Jane. The placement of the proposed pool is very far from Jane. So Mr. Snaden was right. It's further back than than if we were putting a house on this lot, how far the house would have to be from it. It looks like approximately 70 feet back for both structures, the pool and the pool house structure. This is a view of Jane Street you can see the fence that's already installed, which kind of disappears in that line of trees. You really obviously can't see the backyard very much at all from this view because there's so much mature vegetation.
So if I can give you some context, yes, Lisa, you're correct. So you can't see it here, but directly in the right-hand side of the screen is my house. And off to the left, off of the third tree is the garage. This is looking east from Jane Avenue toward our property. And, the accessory structure in the pool would be off a little bit to the right of this biggest green tree on your right-hand side.
Okay. I do want to make note for the record that this application is strictly because the structures are perceived to be forward of the foundation line or the frontage of the house. All the other requirements are all within the code. There are no setbacks that are being violated. Everything is within the code. The structure as it sits would not require any setbacks, as we've already said, and as indicated on page 8 of the application. Are there any other pictures, or is this the only picture?
Yeah, it's only letting me share one window at a time for some reason, so I can go through them unless if you're seeing the same picture, then yeah, let me stop and I'll reshare.
Yeah, I'm only seeing the one with the evergreens.
Okay, hang tight one sec.
Sure. Mr. Misnett, I apologize for the technical snafu. We'll get through this.
That's okay.
That's all right. We deal with it all the time. So this is a reverse view of where we just were. This is now standing where the pool would be located and where the accessory structure would be located, looking west toward Jane Avenue. And again, you can see the evergreen buffer that we have there. is very effective at blocking out the view to and from the road.
Quick question for you. So if I'm looking at this, the house is behind me. Your residence is behind me. Is that?
The house is behind you to your right.
Yep. And the stakes that we're looking at, what does that represent?
That represents off to the left. That is the outline of the accessory structure for the non-active use for storage on the right-hand side. The open patio area, which is the little bump out there. And then what you don't see to the left is the active accessory structure to the left of that.
All right, so the pool would be roughly then based on the pool would be roughly right in front of us, dead center, plus or minus?
I was standing at the stake that would be the southeastern corner of the pool.
Yes. So the pool would start off camera.
Pretty much where I'm standing.
Pretty much where she's standing. If you see that kind of what looks like a muddy tire track for some reason that's filled with water.
Yeah.
That's maybe about 3 or 4 feet to the right, I believe, is where the edge of the pool would be in parallel to the yellow line you see going toward Jane.
Okay, perfect. Lou, do we have any other pictures? And I apologize that you're handling this. Thank you.
No problem. Yeah, let me just show one more.
Please.
Hang tight.
So this is an overhead view of our property, and the neighbors in this view east is actually toward the top of the screen. Our house has the red circle with the arrow on it. I wanted to show you this because the other picture that's on the Brookhaven tax map, I think, was taken in the winter. And the reason I just wanted to put this out there was more toward, one of the 5 tests of, is what we want to do in keeping with the character of the neighborhood. And you can clearly see that our neighbor immediately to the south has a very large L-shaped pool and an accessory structure that basically abuts the property line. Our other neighbor to the south has a pool. It's tough to see, but our neighbor to the north has a circular pool. And you can just see a little bit of across the street. Matt across the street in Arlington also has a pool, as well as the lacrosse guy up there in the upper right-hand corner also has a pool. But anyway, the point is that the neighborhood is full of pools.
Okay, so that speaks to the character of the neighborhood. Lou, one last time, is there anything else? Any others there, Lou?
There are, but they're the same kind of views that you've already seen,
Oh.
and just a general aerial. So I think you got it covered.
Okay, perfect. Cindy, we're going to make these exhibit one of the exhibits. Did you hear me, Cindy?
Sorry, I was muted. Yes, I've labeled those Exhibit A,
All right, perfect.
the 3 photos.
Yes, I believe there's more, but they're pretty much typically the same. So we'll include them all in the
Okay.
application. But those 3 specifically were seen at the hearing tonight. Any other questions or comments from the board before I go to public comment? Seeing none and hearing none. We're going to open it up to the public, not just yet, Lisa, because we have 2 letters of support, which I'm going to bring up. Just bear with me a sec. I just have to bring them up. I'll read them into the record. The first letter is from Joanne and Renee Nielsen, 112 Jane Avenue, Port Jefferson, New York, 11777, dated February 8th, 2022, to the Port Jefferson Zoning Board of Appeals. We are submitting this letter to the Zoning Board of Appeals virtual public hearing scheduled for February 8th, 2022. We are the Snedden's next door neighbors and have no objection for Bill and Kathy Ann Snedden to be granted approval for their addition and in-ground pool on their property. If you have any questions, please feel free to contact us at the number above. Thank you. And it says John and Renee Nielsen. And let me pull up, there is one more, I believe. Just bear with me a second. Right. The second one is from Kenneth and Lauren Auerbach, 227 Sheldrake Avenue, Port Jefferson, New York. February 7, 2022, to the Port Jefferson Zoning Board of Appeals. We respectfully request this letter be submitted as testimony for the Zoning Board of Appeals virtual public hearing scheduled for February 8, 2022, regarding the request by our neighbors, Bill and Kathy Ann Snaden, to be granted approval for the addition of an in-ground pool and cabana on their property. We hold no objection and offer our total support. The Snadens have always been considerate and respectful neighbors, and the aforementioned improvements will not cause any detriment to our beautiful, peaceful neighborhood. As a resident who's lived closest to the Snadens, I hope you consider our testimony when rendering your decision. If you have any questions, we can be reached at the above numbers. Thank you, Kenneth and Lauren Auerbach. All right. And Cindy, you'll put those in the record as an exhibit, please?
Yes, Exhibit B.
Okay, perfect. Mr. and Ms. Snaden, just for the record, give us just a rough location. Mr. Snaden, Mr. Auerbach said he was your closest neighbor. Just, does he immediately adjacent to you guys?
Yeah, on Jane Avenue, he's immediately adjacent to the north.
Okay, was he the L-shaped pool that you had shown?
No, he's the circular pool to our north.
Oh, to the north, he's across. Okay, yep,
Yeah.
all right.
And then the Nielsen's are immediately adjacent to the south.
Okay,
On
perfect. Thank you very much, just so that
Yeah.
everyone gets an idea. Lisa, do you have anyone in the public that would like to speak on this application?
At this time, there's no one with a hand raised. If anyone in the public wants to comment, you can comment via Zoom by raising your hand using the raise hand icon.
All right,
There are no public
I'm
comments.
just gonna give it a minute. Lisa, what for secret, what's the, can you please give us a secret determination?
Yes, this is a listed type 2 action, individual area variances for residential properties, type 2 listed actions, and require no further environmental review.
Okay. One last time I'm going to ask you, is there anyone who would like to make a in the virtual waiting room that would like to comment?
No.
Okay. At this time, hearing none and seeing none, I'm going to move on. Are there any other questions or comments from the board for the applicant? Does the applicant have any further questions or comments he would like to add for the record?
I don't think so. Just, thank you guys for your time.
Okay, then with that being said, I'm going to ask for a motion to close this hearing. Do I have a motion to close this hearing?
Motion to close the hearing.
Okay, do I have a second?
I'll second.
Right, second, all in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Thank you very much, Mr. and Mrs. Snaden, for your time. We appreciate it, and you'll be notified of our decision via Cindy.
Great.
Thank you.
Thank you, guys.
Thank you. Have a good evening.
Have a good night.
Right.
Thank you, guys. I'm logging
Great.
out.
All right, thank you,
Okay.
Jen.
Thank you,
Thank you.
Jen.
Thank you,
Thanks.
Jennifer. All right. Any questions or comments? Anything about this application anybody would like to say?
Mark, I'll just reiterate kind of my point from earlier, based on what we discussed at the previous application that the Snadens put forward. When we approved the fence, we talked a lot about the functioning of the rear yard. And as Mr. Snaden mentioned, kind of the technicality in the code of having 2 front yards. But in all practicality, they have a driveway, they have a garage. Their address, as Mr. Snaden mentioned, is on Arlington. So functionally, it is the rear yard, in my opinion. So I think it's a decent location for the pool that they're proposing. I think it's already fenced, it's already buffered. And given the comments from the neighbors, I don't see this as an issue, in my opinion.
I agree with you, Lou. I think the fact that it's a through lot, if you look at the other neighbors that all around, they didn't appear to have through lots, and they all have pools. So you probably could have accommodated this. I think I truly agree it's a technicality. But unfortunately, it falls into our lap. But I do agree with you. I think they've done a good job screening the property, and they've really made an effort not to have a adverse impact on the neighborhood with their other improvements that they've done. Let's just walk through the criteria. Will this have any adverse environmental impacts in the neighborhood? I think no, there's enough pools in that neighborhood to prove that there's no, as far as the character, same thing. Again, I don't see any issues with the character. Again, there's immediately 3 pools, 2 of them touching their property already. Whether the hardship is self-created, actually, in this case, I'd say no. I think it's just a flaw in the code. I don't even say a flaw, a technicality in the code, because their property does front on 2 properties, and we've run across this before. We can rattle off a couple of them already. Whether the variance is substantial, I agree with you. You can't even put it's not even like you're putting a number on it like we normally do. Again, I think it's a technicality. They're 70 feet from the rear property, the roadway on one side. They're well within the setbacks on all their neighbors. So I really would say that, there's not even a, large self-created variance. And could you have done this any other way? I think the only other way would put it on the side of the house, but due to the septic system, you wouldn't be allowed to do that anyway by code. So I think this would be the feasible way, still maintaining large setbacks. Does anybody agree, disagree, have a comment on anything I've said?
I mean, I agree with it. If they placed it actually in the side yard, it would actually, I think, have more of an impact on their neighbors. It would be closer to the property line. It'd be more prominent. So I think this is actually a better location.
And it may require a variance. I wouldn't know that. I didn't really look at those numbers quickly, but I think you'd need a variance, where here you're not really, the only variance is a technicality in the code of being a through lot.
Mhm.
So anybody else have any questions or comments regarding that?
Mark, I just point out that in hearing the testimony, it reminded me, I think my first zoning board meeting, we heard about a house that was doing something on Randall, and it was a through lot. And I was just thinking about it, and it's between Randall and Howard, very, very similar situation. And they have a large pool on the technical front yard, fronting Howard. So this isn't really a unique. It's, it does happen in our village.
And we just saw it on, I think we just saw it on, as Lisa said, a work session in Oakwood. We just saw it.
Yep.
It's not an uncommon thing, and it's just a technicality in the code. But it's, I don't think, with 2 letters of support, nobody out there, I don't think we're really going to have any adverse impacts. And with the screening and everything they've done already to the property, I think it's going to have minimal impact, if none, to the neighborhood. The type 2 action under secret, as Lisa stated at the public hearing. I think we have to make a motion. Do we have to make a motion on type 2 actions, Lisa?
No.
No, okay. That being said, anybody else have any questions or comments for this application? That being said, I'm going to make a motion that we approve this application. Do I have a second?
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? This application is approved. And hopefully this is our last Zoom meeting and we go back to in-person again. So.
I just have one kind of related question. Do you think there would ever be an amendment to the code to take these kinds of properties into account? People don't have to seek variances in the future?
I would say probably not. The reason being is that certainly some through lots are configured in such a way that it is completely appropriate that they have a pool what's seemingly in the front yard, but we certainly also have some lots that are inappropriate for that. So as much as a pool is a permitted accessory use throughout the code, because of all the other rules of setbacks, etc., because the rule specifically says it has to be in required yards, I wouldn't, it means that not every property is ideal for that kind of use. So I would say that I wouldn't expect this to be moved, but I think that's exactly why there's a zoning board of appeals where you can evaluate each individual property, make those judgment calls, and at the same time, make sure we're protecting nature and character of the community.
Thanks.
Okay. Any other questions or comments? Do we have any, Cindy, what's our future agenda look like?
Muted.
Can't hear you.
There is no future agenda at this time.
Oh, man.
So you
Duncan,
might
we
be
have-
right. We might be in person next time we meet.
I
Yeah,
hope
it's
so.
at this point, it's not looking like we're having a meeting in March. So I would anticipate after that, we'll start to get more applications as people start eyeing their spring and summer projects.
Lou, you don't have something you want to design and just, draft up and.
Congratulations on your vote today.
Might I suggest in this lull from meetings that the team take that meeting time to do their required education for the year? You're required to do a mere 4 hours as the village's members of the New York Planning Federation, and as there is no conference anticipated this spring, if you go to the New York Planning Federation website, and you can sign up for one of their webinars that have already been done. There's a whole webinar library. If you have any difficulty signing into any of them, just zip them an email and they will give you access. But a quiet month is a great time to get all of that required education out of the way. Slight plug.
I'm already in process with the Department of State, so I'll be waiting for them to let me know when the next webinar is going to be. So I'll be handling
Gold stars
that.
for you.
So,
I listen to webinars instead of podcasts. Do I get 3 gold stars?
Yes, 3 gold stars. I have them in my desk. See me tomorrow.
Just one other thing, and Antonio is now alternate number 1. For you who don't know, Jack Gianola has officially resigned as an alternate and from the Board of Zoning Appeals. So he is no longer with us. So Antonio, you just got one step closer, Antonio. That's how it's like. It's just got to outlive the guy in front of you. You're getting there. You're getting there. Guys, said, watch out. There's a target on our back. There's a target on our back. So.
Thanks for having me, guys.
So Jack's no longer with us. Got some, ever since his mom passed away, he's got his hands full with some other things. So he's opted to step out officially, and Allison finally let him go. Allison's not known for letting people go. So
he broke my only rule. Nobody leave.
Well, that being said,
He will be missed.
yes, he will. That he will. That being said, if nobody has anything else, do your continuing education, or Allison will come hunt you down. So, Allison, now under your, I guess, involvement with the Planning Federation, what's going to happen going forward? You said there was going to be nothing this year. What is the Planning Federation?
So for now, this spring, there's really not enough time to pull something together. We usually need about 9 months to get a conference up and running. There was a link sent around for people to answer queries as to whether or not they had any comfort level with a fall conference, which I know is also difficult to answer because who the heck knows what fall is going to bring. So as of right now, we are still working through, we're going to start building some new webinars with that. There should be some future for in-person conferencing in, I don't know what timeline. But we're probably going to be moving to a hybrid instead of just in-person conferencing, moving to a webinar versus, but a webinar and in-person conference model.
And do you know if SCOVA is doing anything? Are they,
SCOVA had NICOM actually had their full in-person conference this past fall. Well, I can't say full, but it was a usual multi-day conference. I don't know from a volume perspective whether or not it was full or not. I haven't heard anything from Suffolk County Planning Commission yet as to whether or not they were going to be having in person or if they were sticking with remote at the moment. I think part of the difficulty is as the landscape keeps changing, when you do something in person, you have contracts with hotels and conference spaces, and they're really not interested in full refunds. And so those things can tend to be a bit tricky when you're planning ahead. You need a little bit more stability, or else these not-for-profit groups can really take a financial hit. So we recognize the landscape is still not quite solid, well, not really solid under our feet. So I think some people are pulling off in person, some people aren't. It really is where their risk level is landing.
All right,
Allison,
excellent.
I was a SCOVA panelist recently. Can I get like 2 years worth of brownie points or something for that?
Nope.
I went above and beyond, Allison.
Go learn stuff.
Fine.
It's 4 hours. It takes something weird you haven't taken before. Learn something new. It's all good. It's a measly 4 hours. We can do it, team. Actually, under the rules, basically what is permitted training is anything that the village approves as permitted training. The state law is very loosey-goosey, and that's a technical legal term. Antonio can back me up on that, on what's required and what's not. But really, if anything you take, whether remote or in person, from Suffolk County Planning Commission, no doubt theirs are perfect. NICOM, SCOVA, or again, New York Planning Federation or Department of State all qualify without any lift whatsoever.
I know when we used to go take the conferences or whatever, you always got some type of certificate. Do we have to do anything like, because I know with the New York Planning Federation, they sent me the link for the webinars, but do we have to provide any backings or, something for the file?
So with the webinar program, I believe the platform was automatically generating a certificate at the end of it. If you did not get your certificate, if you just send an email to their, I think it's just knifepif@knifepif.org, but double check that on the website. They will double check the people who showed up, who stayed through the end, and they'll zip you your certificate.
Excellent. Any other questions or comments?
Yeah, I had some correspondence. I think it's actually is it Barbara Samel? She's the executive director. That rings a bell. And I asked
She's
her
our
about,
immediate past director.
Okay.
She recently resigned from the position. Our previous director has hopped on board as an interim as we find a new one. So again, if you just go onto the basic website and just click on their info button, someone there will get back to you and be able to answer your questions. But
Yes.
yeah, Barbara, I believe, resigned a couple months ago.
right. So I had asked her, I said, hey, I went to this course and can I please have like a certificate, similar to what we get in CLEs, right? And she said, no, actually, it's like self-executing. You just fill out your own certificate that you've attended.
Oh, see, I got mine sent to me. That's super weird. I can double check on that. But then again, if you have any queries, you can always just reach out to the general line, and the interim executive director is manning the ship at the moment.
Awesome. Thank you so much.
Sure thing, team.
Again, anybody else? Seeing none, hearing none, I'm gonna say have a good evening.
Thank you.
Bye,
Take
all.
care, all.
Have a good one.
Good night, everyone.
Bye, Antonio.